it allows for the thriving and survival of the society, we keep it. If at certain points that practice actually hinders the survival and thriving and prosperity of the society, we drop it.
Is it not the right part for people to read about it first, and especially reading the right version of it?
No, I think we've just become lazy. I think we all love to give opinions. It is not always about right or wrong. It's about the reality of life, that the sankats are there and we will have to navigate through it. These texts provide us a guidance to navigate through those sankats. Case studies se kya hota hai? We learn how theory is implemented in action.
Perfect.
In real life, right? Itihas is but that.
Rapid fire. One city you would like to visit. One character you like in Mahabharata. So one character heavily misrepresented in Mahabharata. One book you recommend everyone should read. Ramayana or Mahabharata? When is your next book coming? A lot of people say, Bhishma was killed badly, Karna was killed badly.
Itihas is not just any story. As I said, Itihas has a purpose of teaching us lessons for life. Krishna says, Vah, Dishtya, Smarasi iha dharma. Now you are remembering dharma, huh? Very nice, very nice. And then he says, where was your dharma? Kvate dharmagata. When you were trying to burn Pandavas and Kunti in that Lakshagraha. Where was your dharma when Draupadi was violated and humiliated? Dharma eva hato hanti, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha.
Going to Gita, this is my favorite topic anytime. Now, you see when you go to 18 chapters we have and 700 slokas. I see Arjuna, after listening 500 slokas also, he starts asking. Like, I feel, Arjuna, you're listening to Paramatma. He gave you Vishwarupa. The best part is, after the beautiful Vishwarupa, 11th chapter, he asked question in 12th chapter. Like, what are you, Arjuna? Like, you saw the Vishwarupa and you're asking the question. Is it allowed? Like, what was he? Was he arrogant to ask questions, or is it okay to ask questions?
In his mind, initially, he's speaking to his friend, who he looks at as a guide, his mentor, right? That is why first he's telling him as well. That is why he chose Krishna over his Narayani Sena. He had a choice, right?
Right.
Already Yudhishthir had lesser number of
and you choose one
soldiers.
Akshani out.
Exactly. You let that go. Why? Because he trusted Krishna. But how? As a friend, as a guide. That is why in the 4th chapter, when Krishna says that I had told this yoga to Vivaswan and all of that, and he's like, "Arey, but you are born now. How did you tell him then, right?" So you realize even there, Arjun is not looking at Krishna as a Vishwarupa Krishna.
Right.
He's thinking of him as a friend.
Okay.
And I think Arjun is asking the questions on our behalf. At that point, right?
We are blessed.
Because he is so confused, he's so shaken from inside that he's trying to hold on to any straw which might help him get out of the situation, right? Krishna is not allowing that. That's a different thing. Yeah. So Krishna keeps on explaining. And the beauty of it is, even after Vishwarup, when Arjun asks the question again that, should I pray to Nirakar or Sakar, right?
Exactly.
Because some people say Nirakar is good, some say Sakar is good. You've shown me this Vishwarupa, now how do I make sense of it, right? And even then, Krishna not once says, Arey, kya pakara hai? How many times will I answer? Right? He keeps his patience and he continues to answer.
Yes.
And at the end of the 700 shloka, that's the best part. He then doesn't say, do because I am telling you to. He says, Yatha echhasi tatha kuru. Now do what you must do, what you think you should do. I have told you. Now you think and do. Why? Because the karma siddhanta never fails. If you have done an action, you will have to bear its consequences, right? So here, basically, is it allowed? You said, of course, the questioning is always allowed. And that is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. In fact, all our texts, if you see, are in a question-answer format, right? If you see Kathopanishad, that is also a question-answer format. Where Prashna Upanishad is also question-answer format. However, the idea is that how do you question?
Okay.
Are you questioning for the sake of dismissing something?
Okay.
Or are you questioning for the sake of understanding something? I think that is the key difference. But questioning is definitely allowed.
So you can question in Sanatana Dharma.
You must question in Sanatana Dharma.
You must. Wow.
Because only then will the concept make sense to you, right? Otherwise, you're doing it. I know this one story I had heard. It's beautiful. Some father, his father passed away, so he was doing a shraddha, yeah. And in that shraddha, there was a cat which came. So the cat was trying to eat the whatever prasad was kept there. So he took a basket and he put it over the cat. Okay. And then got the rituals done and everything, and then let the cat off. Now the son had seen that, but he didn't know why that cat ke upar basket dala tha. So every time then, when he had to do a shraddha, he would go looking for a cat so that he could put a basket on that cat, because he thought aisa karna hai. Never thought of asking. Bola hai to karna hai, right? That shouldn't happen. We say, oh, Bhagavad Gita is a great text. So उसको लाल कपड़े में बांध के उसकी पूजा करो. पूछा नहीं क्यों? अरे भाई क्यों है ग्रेट? ग्रेट है तो मुझे क्या सीखना है नहीं. बट देखा है कि सब लाल कपड़े में बांध के पूजा करते हैं तो वही पढ़ा रहो. पढ़ो कभी नहीं. That doesn't work. You should ask. You should ask, why am I doing this? Why should I be doing this, right? Because only then will the answers come to you and you will have a lot more conviction in what you do.
Okay.
Only then our own thought process will get cleared. But as I said, the bhav is important. Not for dismissing.
Not for dismissing.
For understanding. That is important.
I have many friends. In fact, I was also one of them about 10 years back, let's say. There is one book, a lot of books there which my mom kept. ठीक है, वहाँ पे पूजा करने के लिए ठीक है. And there are times which people said you should not even keep those books. Those people actually would not be able to explain. I stopped asking questions. I would say my generation, I'm probably, I would say Gen X. My generation was not having answers. And I didn't ask because for whatever reason our generation was born into. Then we didn't know what the answers were. Now, the youngest generation, Gen Z people, our daughters and all, when they ask, I don't have answers. So what do? I just say, please shut up. And you Google it, yeah, that might be the reason, yeah, possible. So where do people like us, what should we do? Should we say, stop them asking? You said no, because we need to inquire. But I don't have answers. So what is the advice for people like us, our generation, who are in between? They are not so young that they can learn. And I have enough of things on my job. I am busy, people say. I can't read Bhagavad Gita also. But people like them, what do you advise? What do they, basic things they can do?
One is, you have to value what legacy you've gotten from the rishis, right?
Correct.
And if you value that, when you are asked a question which probably you didn't think of, clearly we'll say, okay, fine, this is an interesting question. I also want to know, right? They don't have an answer. If I also don't have an answer, then clearly that is an important question which I haven't thought of, right? Then either I tell them that, okay, let us together find the answer to this, because this is an important question,
right,
which is relevant for me to live my identity assertively, confidently,
okay,
right? And then try to find an answer for that. How to find an answer? Aajkal to technology has made it so easy. Now, of course, there is explosion of information out there. Sometimes it becomes difficult to figure out what is right from wrong, but at least make that effort.
Okay.
Yeah. Gurus, lots of wise people are online now. Lots of books are accessible.
Right.
So all these discussions are going on. At least prayatna to kariye. Also, it is possible that there might not be one answer. Because some of these things, especially when they deal with rituals, might have many different understandings. One of it might appeal to you.
Okay.
If it appeals, great. If it doesn't matter. Yeah, there are other things which you can pursue.
Wonderful. So when you say rituals, how important are rituals? Like, for example, I might not be ritualistic. Can I be dharmic? Or is it like a mandatory that I need to be ritualistic for being dharmic?
Important question, but also one where there are various different opinions.
Right.
Okay. Some people will say rituals are absolutely integral to being dharmic. And one must follow rituals. These could be anything. It could be any sampradaya that you follow. Yeah.
Right.
Others may say not necessary. As long as I imbibe those values, it is good. I actually don't have an answer.
Okay.
Yeah. I do some stuff. I don't do others. Also, because what happens is the rituals have to come to you from the family. Right? Lot of us have lost that. Then what? At least then we ensure that during festivals, during utsavs, we do at least a little bit what we can. But not doing it does not cancel me from being a dharmic. That much I know. Yeah. Because then what is dharma? What are the we say the different lakshanas of dharma, right? When they explain that in our own text, they don't talk about rituals per se. They will talk about the value systems. They'll say satya, ahimsa, dhriti, shama, pragya, all of that, right? So that is also dharma. Living your life according to certain value systems is also dharma. Living your lives believing in certain philosophies which are core to Sanatan Dharma, like Karma Siddhanta, Punarjanma, Nirakar, as well as Sakar forms of worship, right? All these are core. So if I believe in that, that is still dharma, yeah. But then are rituals important? I think there are, because what happens is, you see, even otherwise, any organization that we are part of or a school, when children go there, they all have their own rituals.
Correct.
हर सुबह को assembly लगता है, हर सुबह को certain things are followed. Every time before going, certain things are followed. Why are these rules and regulations necessary? In that sense,
Right.
These are rituals created, right? Because these rituals set a certain rhythm in you. They set a certain discipline in you, right? Now, in the schools and all that, it ends there at discipline. When you then, transpose it to a dharmic environment, in that setting, you are connecting those rituals with a Bhagwan, with a deity, with a Ishta, right? There, then, if you can actually concentrate in the ritual, what are you concentrating on? The Ishta,
Okay.
right? Then that bond itself is very different. Then it allows you to attain that state of dhyana, where you are able to disconnect from the other things that are going on in your life,
Right.
and focus at least for that moment into your Ishta.
Okay.
That is also dharana dhyana,
Yeah.
right? A form of that. So for me, everything connects back to yoga because that's where I come from.
Okay.
So I see it in that sense.
Beautiful.
Though I think if you ask somebody who's a smarta, yeah, they will have
Oh.
a very different take on this.
I completely agree,
Yeah.
because that's what the greatness of Sanatana Dharma is. Everyone has a path. And what I recently I'm getting these thoughts in, I would be very blessed to get your opinion on it. As I see, Sanatana Dharma is not a set of rules. It's more of guidelines to have a respective life. For
Right.
example, we have ahimsa. If ahimsa was a rule, then Krishna wouldn't have said, Arjuna, jao, kuch karo. At the right time. Krishna would have told the next day when Draupadi Vastarapaharanan, he would have come. He met them in Vana, let's go fight. No, he didn't say that. At the right time, he gave that thing. So it's a guideline which has been given. Most of our rituals are also guidelines. Today, I might not be able to follow that rituals because we change. And that's what a lot of people say, that happened that time, in this happened that time. We are saying, okay, we change. We accept
Correct.
change. So I feel it is more of guidelines which are given like 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the consequences you get it. If you are okay, please follow. If you're not okay, you'll find those
Yeah.
consequences. Are you good?
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely. I think even in this, right, there is something called as samayachara,
exactly.
which is basically how I see rituals. According to your time,
Yeah.
desh, kala,
Time and
avastha,
space is, yeah.
your rituals and everything will
It'll
change.
change.
However, the value systems is more sanatan, are
Sanatan.
more eternal.
Eternal.
Now, I want to take a minute to speak about the ahimsa
Huh.
thing, right? Because I think we tend to, or rather, the way this word has been misused
Right.
is completely deluding people.
Huh.
When we say ahimsa and we say non-violence, right? Now, non-violence is, yes, not killing anybody. All that is correct, right? But non-violence is a dharma lakshan. We shouldn't forget that.
Right.
So non-violence is along with dharma, not in isolation of it. Now, what is dharma? Dharma is that which sustains and upholds, right?
Right.
So, dharma is required for the continuation, thriving and surviving of a system. Now, let's take an example there. If in such a system, there is an element which is trying to disrupt that system, which is trying to disrupt the sustenance, then what does dharmic value require you to do? It requires you to eliminate that element which is trying to disrupt the harmony of the system, right? So when you eliminate it, are you committing hinsa or ahinsa? And by not eliminating it, are you committing hinsa or ahinsa? For example, terrorist, yeah? Ajkal there is a fashion that the terrorist might have killed like thousands of people. But if he is being hanged, we have our so-called humanities walas who will go and scream ki bhai chhod do, ahinsa, ahinsa. Arey Baba, he killed so many people. If you allow him to live, many others would be encouraged, right? Basically, you are encouraging terrorism in the society. So by not killing him, aren't you committing violence on the society? It is not ahinsa, it is hinsa on the society. So where do you, when you say ahinsa, hinsa, it is in respect to what is what we have to see. And that is in respect to dharma. So by not giving punishment to this person who's committed a crime,
You're doing a
you are
himsa.
not doing non-violence. You are doing violence. Right?
Yeah,
So that nuance has to be very, very well understood. That what are virtues and what are vices in relation to dharma.
Yeah, so it's always on a particular time and space context.
Exactly.
So killing, one word might not make any sense. So killing for a person who is killing others might be a non-violence.
Exactly. Now, of course, ahimsa paramo dharma. That is correct, right? Because if people start killing each other for anything and everything, मुझे आपसे गुस्सा आ गया, मैंने मार दिया, then the society is not going to sustain. Obviously, right? It's like the Matsya Nyaya, the bully will have his way.
Yeah.
So obviously, ahimsa is important, and we all have to follow ahimsa.
Correct.
But when somebody is doing hinsa on the society, you can't be doing bhajan of ahimsa, right? Because that is hinsa on the society.
Yeah,
that clarity we need to have. In fact, there is this beautiful episode in Ramayana which comes when Sri Ram is 16 years old.
Okay.
And Vishwamitra ji takes him to for protecting his yagna. Before reaching that Siddhashram for the yagna, they reach Tadkavan.
Okay.
ठीक है. Tadkavan is basically that forest which was once upon a time two bustling cities of Kurush and Malad. Yeah.
Okay.
But they were destroyed by this Tadka. Yeah. And when they reach there, Vishwamitra tells Ram that you need to kill Tadka. Now, the scriptures say women cannot be killed. Stri is aghanya. Right? Guy is aghanya, Stri is aghanya. So Sri Ram is like, Arey baap re, how can I kill a lady? Paap lagega. I shouldn't be killing a lady. And at that time, there is a lesson which Vishwamitra gives.
Okay.
He says, Nahi stri vadhe krite ghrana karya narottama. You should not have any daya for killing this lady. Why? Chaturvarna hitarthaya kartavya rajasunana. For the sake of all the communities, Chaturvarna, everybody in your kingdom, for your citizens, for the benefit of your citizens, you must do what you need to do. Then he says, Nrushasam anrushasam va, prajarakshana karanat, apatakam va sadosham va, kartavya rakshata sada. Nrushasam anrushasam, it might be good or bad, ahimsa, yeah? It might be good or it might be cruel. If it might be patakam, it could lead to liberation or it could lead to downfall. Anything, that particular action. But if it is required for your praja rakshan, for the sake of your praja, if you need to do that, you must do that. Rajya bhara niyuktanam eshaha dharma sanatanaha. He says that people, the kings who have been given the responsibility of a kingdom must do whatever they need to do for the sake of their praja. And then he says, Adharmyam jahi kakustha dharmo hi asyam na vidyate. This lady, Tadka, there is no dharma in her. Kill that adharmi, he says. This is the lesson. So what is Vishwamitra saying? Exactly this, right?
Yeah.
That dharma is important.
Yeah.
And to uphold the dharma is the role of the Raja.
Right.
And whatever is required to do that must be done.
I think this is where most of us get confused of stagnant rules, which says this is how it is, right? But when you actually turn down and see, many of the times, most of them have learnt and grew because of that. Like the story of Karna, which we say, the favorite. A lot of people say, Bhishma was killed badly, Karna was killed badly. Coming back to our favorite Mahabharata, like Vishwamitra, if he was there, he would have said the same thing what Krishna told to Arjuna. They have done a lot of adharma to you.
Arey, what Vishwamitra? Krishna says that to Karna, no?
Yeah.
When Karna's thing is going in and he says, oh, nityam na paripati dharma. So he's basically saying, we take care of dharma. But see, today when I require, I have forgotten my mantra of the astra, Divya Astra, right? My wheel is going down. Basically, even if we take care of dharma, dharma doesn't take care of us. He says that. And he tells Arjun, now you do your dharma. It is not right for you to fight with me when I'm trying to pull my wheel out.
Yeah, wheel out.
Now, frankly, there was no need for him to pull that wheel out. He could have just stood there and fought, right? Like Arjun had done that so many times.
Right.
And at that time, when he started talking about dharma, do your dharma, the dharma doesn't protect us and all that, Krishna says, Vah, dishtya smarasi iha dharma. Now you are remembering dharma, huh? Very nice, very nice. And then he says, where was your dharma? Kvate dharma gata. When you were trying to burn Pandavas and Kunti in that Lakshagraha, Where was your dharma when Draupadi was violated and humiliated in the sabha like that? Where was your dharma when Abhimanyu was killed
Yeah.
just 2 days back?
2 days.
The way you killed him, right? Where was your dharma? What dharma are you talking about? Right? So Vishwamitra, no, even Krishna tells him that.
Yeah.
That you never lived up to dharma and now you're saying everybody should follow dharma. It doesn't work. Dharma eva hato hanti, dharmo rakshati rakshitah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think a lot of times we get confused on that part, right? Why we judge right based on our context. The context is not looked at what is happening that point of time. I can sit here in a cushion chair and explain Rama was bad.
Correct. Judgment pass
जजमेंट
karo.
पास करो, मिसोजानिस्ट है, बीवी को बेच दिया वहां पे जंगल में बिचारी. I don't know, we have to speak about Uttara Ramayana part, but is it not the right part for people to read about it first, and especially reading the right version of it? But somehow people actually have lost this time to be given to the scriptures. Or I would
No,
say
I think
yes.
we've just become lazy.
Huh.
I think we all love to give opinions
Mhm.
and we think based on little bit what we've read. Now to social media, all information available, right?
Yeah.
We think that is what it is and we are free to make our opinions, which is okay. Of course, nobody has to pay anything for making an opinion. Have it, no problem. But then also remember that itihas is not just any story. As I said, itihas has a purpose of teaching us lessons for life. Now, you come from corporate, you are consulting, I'm consulting, we've done our management, right? We have something called as case studies. Why do we have case studies? When we have the theory,
Yeah.
right? Case studies se kya hota hai? We learn how theory is implemented in action
Perfect.
in
Huh.
real life,
Right.
right?
Right.
Itihas is but that. How are the theories of the do's and don'ts, the shastric principles, the dharmic virtues and vices, how are they implemented in real life? Yeah. What happens when somebody lives in aligned with that? What happens when somebody doesn't live in alignment with that? And also, how does a person live it? It is not so easy. There are different priorities all the time, conflicting priorities. Raj dharma versus pati dharma. Pita dharma versus Raj dharma. What should you do, right? Because these sankatas are a fact of life. You cannot run away.
Right.
Both Ramayana and Mahabharata tell us that there is no running away, right? Even Sri Ram and Sri Krishna couldn't get out of it. Aapki kya aukat hai?
Yeah.
So those dharma sankats will be there. Now, how do you deal with this dharma sankats is the question we need to ask. Or rather, we look at their lives and say, what would I have done in that situation? They had dharma sankats. If I have such dharma sankats, what would I do? It's very easy to sit and say, ye galat hai, ye sahi hai, right? But many times in life, we are faced with a situation where the options available to us are both suboptimal. And still, a decision has to be made. And the consequences of the decision made have to be lived with, such as life.
Yeah.
Deal with it. But if you've read your scriptures, you will be able to deal with it better and understand how they lived and hence how you can live. It is not always about right or wrong. It's about the reality of life, that the sankats are there and you will have to navigate through it. These texts provide us a guidance to navigate through those sankats.
Beautiful. I think the concept of case study was like this to me. I was like, wow. Because I think that's where when we actually ask people to read itihasa, like story hai re, acha moral thing. It's not moral for me, it's life.
It is life.
It is life. Because morality, I don't know, I might be going philosophical or whatever, but morality is probably it is good or bad comes in. And again, the time and space goes away. Today, it might not be the right way. If Rama was today, I don't know what he would have done. And that might be the itihasa for
No, but then we need to ask, what do we expect today of our leaders? If our leader was faced with a personal issue and a national issue, where would we want him to focus?
National issue is what we will say. But Rama should not do it because he is treated as God and he can do all. That's where two paths are not allowed for God is what we
I don't think people even think that much.
Oh, is it?
They don't even relate it to his role as a Raja.
Oh.
I would say if you want to understand it better, read the book. I've tackled it in Ramayana Unraveled.
I think I would request everyone to read if they don't have time, the so-called busy, the one word which I don't like somehow. But if they have to, I would request and I'm telling it to people, everybody. Please read Mahabharata Unraveled and Ramayana Unraveled, because it will help you to understand what is there in it. Okay? So, Amiji, this is a new section we started recently about rapid fire. Okay, and yeah, these questions are like, probably you can say pass also if you don't want to
good.
answer.
Okay.
So let's start. And one word or a sentence, and let's see. One city you would like to visit.
Athens.
Athens. Uh-huh. One character you like in Mahabharata.
Oh, all of them. Just all of them. I can't pick one. It's just not right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
it's brilliant.
So one character heavily misrepresented in Mahabharata
Karn and Draupadi,
on other different sides.
different side.
Okay. If Rama comes in front of you, what is one thing you'll ask him?
Oh my God. I'll go blank. I'll be in tears. What can you ask when the
Okay.
Deva is in front of you? It's just Anugraha that I can see him, right?
Oh,
May it
wonderful.
happen.
God bless you, it should happen. Okay. If you have given a chance to live in Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga, where will you stay?
I love where I am right now, but probably Mahabharata times.
You
Would
can
be
actually write
interesting.
Itihasa like
Yeah,
Vedavyasa.
in Hastinapur. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. One book you recommend everyone should read.
Being different.
Hmm,
Definitely.
definitely.
So, of course, Bhagavad Gita, Yoga
Yeah,
Sutra, ye sab hai. But I think the thing which Being Different did for me was it got me curious to know about myself. And the way Rajiv Malhotra ji has explained the broad level differences in what it is, what does it mean to be a Bharatiya or a Hindu versus others, it's just brilliant.
Beautiful.
It's like, oh my God, this is so true. It's like that aha moment that happens every page you read.
Okay, we will give that to every of
Yeah.
Yuva Chetana Bandhu. So, Ramayana or Mahabharata?
Both.
One.
So I'll tell you the story for this. Yeah, it was Mahabharat once upon a time, and that's why I started with Mahabharat.
Right.
And a lot of people ask me that why Mahabharat, because I used to think Mahabharat is more fun. Yeah, and Ramayana is like okay. Generally, what you see is very simple. So in that sense, Mahabharat, which is true, it's very lots going on there. Dharma, the complexity is immense. Yeah, so of course Mahabharat from that perspective, but if you'd asked me Ramayana Unraveled versus Mahabharat Unraveled, I would say Ramayana Unraveled has been more satisfying in writing, because understanding Sri Ram, I think, requires a lot more deeper emotional. It pulls you into that level. It's
Oh.
more emotionally satisfying journey.
Okay. Shiva or Vishnu?
Oh my God! So Shiva and Krishna.
Wonderful. So I'll ask you a very, very easy question to end with. India or Bharat?
Bharat all the way.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think those were the fast questions I've asked. Let's come to the concepts which are mostly misrepresented in our dharmic systems. A lot of people, whenever we start with, they actually say your casteism is the reason, you are the reason for casteism. So if you can tell us two very important words also, like a lot of people also ask, you are a religion and all. So if you can tell, what are these words coming from? Where are these are not English. I'm sure there is no word called kasta where it came from caste in our Sanatana Dharma or Sanskrit. So if you can tell us where this origin happened
Yeah.
and how it's different in what we are learning in Itihasas.
So, as you very rightly said, the word caste itself comes from casta, which is Portuguese. Yeah, that's how they had seen. That's how their society was divided. For that matter, every ancient medieval society was divided in some sort of profession-related categories. Yeah, and those professions also were very distinct. They all had sort of a priestly education class, they had the warrior class, they had the trader class, and they had the service class. That's how every society is structured. In fact, if you read Plato, he says that the best structure is the Bharatiya, ancient Bharatiya society, where we had the Varna Jati system. Now, I think we don't need to harp too much on the caste versus jati thing, yeah, because at some point, for whatever reason, we did transform into castes.
Mhm.
But if we just understand the varna jati itself, I think it's important to understand the basic concept of it. There are 4 varnas: Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And at one point in time, there was one-on-one with varnas and jatis.
Mhm.
Yeah, jati varna were one-on-one. So same varna, same jati, all that. So 4 varnas, 4 jati. Over time, what happened was a lot of intermingling happened amongst these jatis.
Okay.
Yeah. So while the varna was still 4,
Hmm.
more from a guna karma, yeah, the sattvic, rajasic, tamasic, and all of that. But the jatis were way more
Okay.
because of intermingling. And this has to be understood, because we tend to believe that we were always an endogamous society, which is not true. Yeah. Let me take an episode from Mahabharat. It comes in Nahush Prashna. So it's called Nahush Prashna, where the snake Nahush, he asks Yudhishthir that who is a Brahmin?
Hmm.
And Yudhishthir lists out some qualities, and he says who has ahimsa and tapa, swadhyaya, all of that. He is a Brahmin. And Nahush says, but this could be in anybody. It's not necessary that only a person born in a Brahmin jati has to have that, right? And Yudhishthir says, that's right. Anybody who shows these gunas should be considered a Brahmin in Varna, and who does not show these gunas will not be considered a Brahmin, even if he's born in a Brahmin jati. So
Right.
now he's differentiating between Varna and jati. Okay.
Okay.
So then Nahush asks, so does that mean that born in a jati does not matter at all? Yudhishthir says, at one point it mattered, but there has been so much Varna Sankarta, in the sense that has been so much intermingling, that now it is very difficult to just look at a person born in a jati and ascribe
Oh,
those
Varna.
qualities
Okay.
to him. Yeah.
Okay.
Now he says that, but does that mean that the rituals prescribed for a Brahmin or Kshatriya jati are open to everybody? No, that's not the case. There are rituals specific to jatis
Aha.
that were still within the jatis. Yeah.
Right.
So it's not as if somebody had the gunas of a Brahmin, he can start teaching the Vedas. No, that's not how it was.
Okay.
The Vedas were. So again, we have to understand, when people say that, oh, Brahmins did all the education, nobody else got the education, there also we have to understand one thing, that yes, by and large, the way the teaching was the prerogative, the adhikar of the Brahmin jati as well. But education was for everybody, and which we have seen in the books of the beautiful tree of Dharmapal, right?
Right.
That education was given to everybody. Reading, writing was taught to everybody. The vocational training happened in the families as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is not as if no education was given.
Right.
But teaching of the Vedas was the prerogative of the Jati Brahmins.
Okay.
That we cannot deny.
Okay.
That's how it was. But was it that others did not teach anything, or others did not have access to moksha, or did not have access to spiritual knowledge? No, that's not the case. Because the way the society was structured is, everybody with whatever capabilities and swabhavas they have, they should be able to able to get a livelihood, which
Right.
is protected for them.
Okay.
That is how it was, right? So every jati had a certain livelihood given to them,
Okay.
okay.
Right.
which they lived according to their capabilities.
Right.
And that's how those capabilities were transferred from generation to generation. Now, with the technology advancements and stuff, with the invasions happening, social evolution and everything, lot of things changed. And hence you see that in the medieval period, whatever is the jati, people were across vocations. Yeah. And then when the census, the caste census was done by the Britishers, that's when they were like, oh, these people were supposed to have 4 jatis. Now here, nobody even seems to know where exactly they are falling into, right? So we need to ascribe them 4 jatis. That's when they started making it more rigid. And people were forced to identify into 4 jatis. Otherwise, if you see kayasthas don't fall anywhere.
Okay.
And there are many such jatis. You will also see lots of Kshatriya jatis are, especially in Gujarat, Rajasthan, are now into trading and Vaishya roles, all trading roles and all of that, right? So a lot of evolution or changes happened
Okay.
from that time. Now, the other thing which we need to remember, and this is very important, is that when we say V1 to V4, even in Varnas or say even Jatis, yes, Vedas were for the Brahmins, but the one other thing which is rarely spoken about is the lifestyle choices which became easier along the way. So people who were entrusted the Vedas were supposed to, it was obligatory for them to live a very strict discipline, to live in a strict discipline in the lifestyle that they followed. And these rules became easier and easier going forward, yeah? For Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, it was lot freer.
Yeah, okay.
Now, this is only natural, right? You can't expect everybody in the society to live such strict lifestyles.
Right.
You need people who can be more hedonistic, who indulge in sensual pleasures, which was denied to the people who were teaching Vedas.
Ah,
Now, over time, of course, things changed. Yeah, today I don't think even any Brahmin can claim they live that kind of lifestyle. Yeah, rather others might be actually living a more disciplined lifestyle than the Brahmins.
yes.
So now things have changed, but this is the concept.
Okay.
That is one. The other point which I wanted to make is people say that V1, V2, V3, V4 means V4 has less money.
Correct.
Poverty is attributed to a jati. Again, not true. And for that, we have to see the work of this person called, that guy called Adams. What's his name? Who's drawn the map of GDP
Oh,
for
yeah.
the 2000
from
years, right?
2000 years.
Where India, Bharat, was about 30% of the world GDP along with China.
Right.
And when the invasion started, we dropped to like 15% or so. And after the British invasions, even further down.
Correct.
So for the longest time, when we had 25%, 30% of the GDP, who had this money? We need to ask. Brahmins were teaching,
Yeah.
right? They were supposed to live on bhiksha. Of course, later on, some of them even became rajas and all. That's a different thing. But by and large, right? Kshatriyas, the rajas, of course, had money. But who was generating this money?
Right.
It was the trader class, the Vaishyas, yeah,
And service.
and the artisans who come in the V4 category, right? So all of them have had money. If you see the Natyas and also written at that time, these V3, V4, or even if you see travelogues of the people, they all had money. But what happened after the invasion started happening and the Britishers came in? They broke the back of our industry. Now, when the back of our industry was broken, who suffered the most? The V3 and the V4, right? Especially the V4, who were the artisans. And today, what we see is the result of the last 300 years. Hence, we need to be very careful that what we see today is not because of our ancient past or our scriptures. It is because of what happened in the last 300, 400 years. And make the right connection, make the right causal effect to that
Yeah.
rather than going past. Probably if that system had survived,
We would have
we would have been still a more
more
prosperous
prosperous. Yeah. Yeah.
civilization.
I think that was more of a balance between all these four. And I'm sure, I don't know, you can correct me. Is there a hierarchy mentioned anywhere?
In some sense, the scriptures do talk about hierarchy. But this hierarchy is in terms of respect. Again, why? Because there is this intense, disciplined lifestyle expectation,
Ah, okay.
right? So, more disciplined lifestyle you live, the more respect you get. They were not supposed to make a living out of earnings, right? They got bhiksha, they got patronage of the Raja, and still they were supposed to speak the truth, give the right advice, keep teaching, yeah, and live such a strict lifestyle of do's and don'ts, which others didn't have to. So, a person who can live a life of intense indriya nigraha, sensual control, obviously will get more respect because they were sort of the conscious keepers
Ah, right.
of the society, showing the way of how a person should live a life.
Okay.
That is why that hierarchy is sort of there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not stated, but you automatically give
No,
that
it's sort
respect.
of there. They'll say, the Brahmin is the best amongst the four. All that is said.
That is there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Wonderful. So one important question, and the same question we ask every bandhu of our podcast who comes. And bandhu is a word which we use, Amiji, is for, because
Yep.
it is genderless, it's ageless, it's relationless, but a relation. So every bandhu whom we invite, we ask one very important question. And that's what the concept of dharma speaks podcast is, to understand different perspectives of dharma. Dharma, I would say, fortunately, is not explained one word in English, right? Because it has multiple context and meaning. So we are getting multiple context. So I would like to ask you, what is dharma according to you?
As I understand from Mahabharata and Krishna, dharma is the principle of sustainability. And this sustainability basically covers everything, right? Sustainability with the nature, sustainability with the people around you, sustainability with the animals, yeah, sustainability with the larger cosmos. Now, to make that sustainability happen, we have to live in a certain code of conduct. As long as that code of conduct allows sustainability, we keep that. When it starts harming sustainability, we adapt that. That is the sustainability principle, and that is dharma.
Beautiful. The word adapt is pretty good said. So, adaptiveness is available in dharma. So, we change. So, dharma is not like unchangeable, it's keep changing and adapting.
Dharma has eternal principles. For example, the value systems are eternal. But how do you adapt? How do you live them, right? Will be very time, place, context dependent. And hence, understanding the time, place is very, very important. And that is true for any practice that is prescribed in dharma. If it allows for the thriving and survival of the society, we keep it. If at certain points that practice actually hinders the survival and thriving and prosperity of the society, we drop it. Because when dharma is defined, right, Krishna says this because it dharanat dharmityahu, that he says, and he says prabhavarthaya bhutanam, for the prabhava, for the prosperity, growth and thriving of the all living creatures. That dharma, I am describing dharma to you, he says, yeah. So the sustenance, but not sustenance only survival sustenance.
Right.
It is growth, evolution, progress, everything is covered in that.
Beautiful. So that's a greatness of Sanatan Dharma, where all the aspects and growth, and who doesn't want growth? Thank you very, very much, Amiji. This is I told you, right? Fanboy moment for me to meet you in person. I've seen so much of your videos and I've read both of your books beautifully and beautifully written there. And I felt like you were talking to me. I felt I was watching a video, but I realized you are in front of me. So thank you very much for coming and great words. And we will look forward to have more of you here. I'm sure this time is not enough for me to ask so many questions my viewers have. But one last question, as I always say, when is your next book coming?
So I just finished the manuscript and it's in editing right now. The book will be called Mahabharata Unraveled, Discourses in Dharma. Because in the first part, I covered the katha, the history.
Correct.
I touched upon Shanti Parva, the teachings of Bhishma to Yudhishthir, Vidur Niti and all of that. But there are many such discourses. Even these two are richer than what I've covered there. So I felt the need that we really need to understand it, especially today when we talk of decoloniality, right? So we remove the Western lens. But then what is our lens? Right? We need to develop, we need to know our lens. And that comes from these discourses. So it'll be a little more academic in nature, but I thought it was important. So the gist of all those discourses will come out in the next book.
So I'll be like Arjuna sitting for the discourse to come, Amiji, because I'm sure it'll be the best book because I've started reading Mahabharata, the original version.
Wow.
2 volumes itself, it's brilliant. And I'm sure with your capabilities and the books which you have written, I'm sure it'll be a great book. Looking forward to it. Thank you very, very much for coming.
May all your blessings be with me. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Shamata.
Shamata.